So I like one side of me agrees fully, but then the other side of me is also like, but how do we get better then? And then we being, the best practices as a whole. How can we improve that best practice if we're just going to do the best practice?
No, I see what you're saying. But what does that mean? The North Star is to make business.
And we're officially live. We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment. So, a question that came in for one of our listeners is this person is concerned, that all the things they're designing is something, that they see around them. Someone has already made it before. So, is that okay? Is that a problem? I'm insecure that maybe I will be found out. My clients might not like it, or just will tell me like, hey, our competitor does this too. Like, is this a problem? Is this fine? Like, what do you think?
I think it's absolutely fine. Like, to compare it to like musicians, all notes have already been played. It's hard to reinvent the new thing. I think this is like a Silicon Valley thing where it's like it's the brand new entrant in the market that doesn't have any competitors. That was like the vision that's been perpetuated over the last couple of years. I don't think that's a nice fantasy, and that's like not 1% of all companies, but it is okay to be another player in the market and replicate or compete with existing features. That's how you skip over the product market fit. If you enter in a place where there's already competitors and you build another version of it, you've already validated that product market fit exists. You skip that step. You're now making a better, making a better product to serve the client even better. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's a good thing, especially if you're starting out in entrepreneurship. Like, don't invent this new thing that doesn't exist. You have to, when entrepreneurs start, their first at bat is not their last at bat. It's try and fail. I think a good way to do that, especially with like AI and all these tools that everyone's building something, build a better mousetrap. And just like, there's more to it than just creating the thing. There's the marketing, there's the customer success, there's like all this that's around it. I think it's okay to build a better mousetrap.
Do you think that applies to designers from all levels of seniority?
I think that's perfectly fine. Like, what's the counterpoint there? Like, what is the fear that like you look like you're copying someone's work? Like, is that you think that's the fear?
I think that's the fear. I think we as designers, because of how visually we are, like we make something to look at. Mm-hmm. I think I see within the design community quite often people being called out, like, hey, you designed this thing. It looks very much like this other guy's thing, Mm-hmm. And then some people are like, well, but it's just a dashboard. It's just an onboarding or a login screen, So I think we're all pointing fingers at each other, maybe a bit too much. But I also think, you cannot be unique. We just have best practices and patterns that, in the user's mental model, they bring their experience from different platforms to your platform. So if you do something completely different, even if it's better in theory, people might be more confused because they are so used to the sucky standards, and maybe it's also a bit of, fresh out of school, I'm going to change the world type mentality, I'm going to be new and unique. Yeah,
I think to your first point, I think if you're a junior entering the market, like it is good to copy or steal like an artist, whatever the term is, because you're learning your base level. Like, I'm going to copy this. I see this great designer did this thing. I'm going to copy it 1-to-1. You have to learn how to first design properly, and then you can kind of deviate. But like, to your point, like there are standards and practices. There is one way to do a checkout. We're playing with like the conversion and adoption game. You don't want to design a unique checkout experience because people are used to how e-commerce websites work. You pick a thing, you check out. There's 1, 2, 3. It looks exactly the same because I know I've seen this pattern before. I'll complete it quicker if it's a pattern that I've already seen before. If I create something new with like a floating parallax checkout, you're going to increase the friction and then decrease the checkout percentage.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's true. So I like one side of me agrees fully, but then the other side of me is also like, but how do we get better then? And then we being, the best practices as a whole, how can we improve that best practice if we're just going to do the best practice?
Well, I see what you're saying. Like, but what does that mean? Like the shining, like the North Star is to make the business succeed. Like what is, I know there's the designer in us, and then we have this toxic trait where everything has to be unique and special, but does it?
Well, maybe I have a good example. Maybe we can make this very practical, this episode.
Yep.
As luck would have it, I'm currently in this month, July, I'm working on multiple pricing pages for clients. Earlier this year I had let's all work on onboarding, and now they're all telling me like, hey, let's work on pricing. And I'm talking pricing on a marketing website. You click pricing in the top menu, and then you have all these cards and comparison tables, I think there's a very strong best practice there.
Yep.
And when I say strong, I mean often used, not per se the design quality is strong, but it's just like every pricing page you look at, it has, free, starter, pro, enterprise, with little cards, with little check marks. And then you have each card has a button to get started, right?
Yes.
It's, and then maybe below it, you have some comparison table with crosses and check marks. Like, does this plan have AI support? No, cross, but then pro plan, check mark, yes. If you would go completely crazy there and do something new, like you might feel the urge to do as a designer, your point comes into play. People expect a table to compare, or people expect a list of check marks. If it's not there, people might feel like, maybe this is a shady business because they don't really tell me the things they're doing, or blah, blah, blah. But then also at the same time, I think, like, let's say you have 3 plans to choose from. They all have this get started button. But then when you click one of those 3 buttons, it doesn't really matter which one you click, because you're still going to end up in a trial. And then at the end of your trial, you have to choose again. So I'm thinking, why would I, bother a user with those options in the beginning when it doesn't really matter, and when they don't really know what to pick? Why not just have one button? Like, hey, this is our list of pricing options, but hey, have your trial first, and we'll come back to it later. So I think that's better. Just get people through the door quicker. But then I'm also aware that it's very different from what everyone expects to be there. So stakeholders might not like it because, hey, this is not how we do it. This is not what I've seen competitor A and B do. So it's hard to sell. And I'm also not sure if people will understand it because they're so used to the current, in my opinion, shitty way of doing things.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's pause there. What do you think?
I have so many thoughts on a pricing page, how simple it is, but there's so much, like, people think a pricing page is simple, and you probably discovered it is not simple because there is like psychology behind it. Like, I would say if it is the case that you're forcing people, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't force people to a free trial. Like, the user or the client has given intent that they want to pick that package. You've laid out free to tier 1, 2, and 3. And then if you're doing your job correctly, you are free is fine. Is there's a taste of what you have. Tier 1 has some of the features, but then you leave out 2 or 3 because you want to upsell or like show the value of the next one. So there's always something missing. So you create value, but you create a problem. It's solved by the next tier. But if it goes to like a free trial, even if you have 4 cards that lead to a free trial, you've measured intent. Like, if you're tracking it properly, you can check the analytics, which tier is getting the most traffic. That means you now as a business know what are users asking for? What do they want? Regardless of if they sign up for a free trial and at the end they have to pick their package, there's something to learn there, even if it's just going through a free trial. And also, if you had one option, like, it might convert less because I just have an option to pick. Let me choose as a user. Let me choose which one I want. And if I have an option, I'll convert more.
Right. So what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is even though they will end up on a trial and it doesn't really, from a user perspective, it doesn't matter which they choose in the beginning, you would still make them choose because it gives you a better understanding, an extra data point of which of those 3 buttons is clicked on most often.
Exactly. And then also, like, once your free trial expires, if you've tracked what decision they picked, which if they picked 1, 3, or 4, if they pick 4, you know what email marketing to send them once their free trial is coming up. Like, your free trial is coming up. Do you still want to pick package 4? Like, it's a good way to carry the momentum.
That's right. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel kind of junior now because I wanted to be design only and just make it better and easier to get people in, trying to think business. I saying, more people getting started means more people sticking around. But then having that, remembering what they picked in the beginning, that unlocks all sorts of usefulness later on. Maybe, because one client I work with, they have 3 packages. You pick one, you get on regardless of the one you pick, you go to a trial, and during the trial, everything's unlocked. So you're basically for a few days, for 14 days or so, you're on the highest plan that they have. And then at the end of your trial, you lose those, pro features.
Yeah.
So then they have to pick again. Maybe in that case.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe in that case, because what I wanted to do, maybe I just have to turn it around. Like you have twice the same question. Pre-trial, you get a question, which plan? And at the end of the trial, you also get a question, which plan? I want to take away the first question before. Maybe you can take it away at the end, where you're like, okay, you clicked pro in the beginning. Maybe just display that card the second time, because we remember with the small button show all. Because now currently we have the full pricing page in both cases, in both places. So before and after the trial, like there's no difference.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think there's different ways to like slice a pig here. Like the free trial, like the enter to the free trial works great. Or there's the I picked a thing, I'll just pay for it immediately, remove the free trial. But I see that there's value in the free trial because they've picked a thing, but then you give them everything so that like now they have access. They wanted this package because they wanted to use this set of features. But now they have everything, so that they're exposed to the next tier, which is a great technique. Like I come in because I wanted to use this package. This software is great. Free trial ends. Oh no, I actually wanted those 2 check marks on the next level up.
Yeah.
Let me upgrade.
Yeah. So you would let's say the difference between 2 plans is let's webhook stuff. Things you can external apps you can connect to your SaaS. Like plan A doesn't have webhooks, plan B does. Someone clicks plan A for a trial. They don't expect webhooks to be there, but then it turns out they are there because it's a trial, and during the trial we give them everything. As if you would be like a purist, like everything has to be clean and user friendly, blah blah blah, they would probably have some doubts about that technique. But then as a business owner, business-minded designer like yourself, I can see the trick there. It's people run into it and they're like, oh, that's useful. Yeah, I do want this. Let's upgrade. That's an upsell. Isn't that a bit of much of trickery, or is that just smart business work?
I think it's smart business. It's like you can probably someone out there would say that's a dark pattern because like they ask for one thing, but you're showing another thing. But like your job as a business is like the features that you're offering, they should be solving a problem. That's why people are buying it. So because I'm showing off a feature that you don't have yet, it's not dark pattern. It's just like this. We created this feature. It has immense value, but it's gated behind something you have to pay for because we built it. Like there's a sunken cost to build a feature, and you have to recoup that back. There's the sunken cost, there's a break-even point, and then there's revenue. Like that's what you should be doing as a business. Like that's fair. And like the dark pattern, or actually the best practice is you sign up for package 2. it doesn't have the webhooks, for example, I'm gonna basically, during that, whether it's a 7-day free trial, I'm gonna show you how to use your package, but I'm also going to be promoting how to use this other thing that is not part of your package that will remove. So like you see the value of it. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's a good business move because you're showing the value of all the tools that you've built, that you've invested in building for that specific customer base.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think brainstorming like this, what we're doing now, I think that's really the power of two designers talking things through, brainstorming, and I think that's the way of designing something new. Just to go full circle to that first question that we asked. Everything I design has been done before. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the way to make small steps into a better direction, right? It doesn't have to be completely new, but just talking to you now and thinking about what you're saying gives me like 1 or 2 pointers to make things that I'm working on like 1% better.
Yeah, I mean, like here's like, listen to where we started at, like a pricing page. They all look the same. They're not like visually. Yes, they have 3 or 4 cards with a popular tag or most popular, whatever the tag is. Like that's one, like they look the same one on the surface, but what happens on the back end or that experience becomes unique because it's not everyone's customer base is the same. So that needs to be tailored to the amount of users you have, the amount of volume of users signing up, whether their needs are, what is your business offer. That's different. That's unique. Yeah. But the pricing page is just the gate to get them in. And like there's best practices there because it's been tested and tried over the last, I don't know, not 1,000 years, but however long the first pricing page ever existed. Like there's best practices, but like there's a unique flow afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe I have to wrap my head around all of this because I think those last few sentences really help me to better formulate this whole battle that we have in design, and where some people say like it's not important or it's super important, like that whole battle. Like, well, I can just generate something, but it's like that iceberg model, with like the surface thing, like, hey, that's ice. But then under the surface, there's so much going on that we as designers have to think about as well. So that whole question of everything I design has been designed before. Yeah. Until you go underwater and see everything that isn't visible right away. I think that will be my default answer going forward to anyone who feels that way. So I think that's probably this episode in 1 sentence summary.
Yeah, because like at the surface, like here, like to give another example, like if you were to go onto Dribbble and look at it, I'll go back to the checkout example. Yeah. Like, oh, I love this checkout. Let me just copy it and apply it and then just design it 1-for-1 for my business. A couple of things you're going to run into is that your products are different. So the naming of your product is different. The descriptions of your product is different. So the character length may be different from the one that you see in Dribbble because the title is important, description is important because that describes what product you're building and that's the value that someone's taking and then checking out with. Like the character length has to change. Then that means like the sizing, the UI density has to change. Like the skeleton is great, but you have to fit it to your business and it's never going to look 1-to-1. If it ends up being 1-to-1, you've now inherited flaws that you didn't think you'd be bringing over.
Yeah. As if the thing you saw on Dribbble was perfect. That's a wrong assumption. The thing you're saying now, it basically takes away the need for all those lead magnets, Here's a pack of 200 high converting landing pages, or here's a prompt, 50 prompts to get you high converting landing pages. Because if what you're saying is true, which I think it is, by the way, so I'm agreeing with you, is like there's none of those 50 prompts or none of those 200 examples will be exactly the thing you're looking for because all these different factors, pricing, mental model, user, target audience, like features, all those things combined, like there's so many different combinations possible. Odds are that your situation is not there. It's those packages are inspiration at best.
It's a good starting point. Like, yes, those I've because I've downloaded those packages. They're okay. Like, but like they've been made so generic that they've lost their value. Like the most highest converting landing pages is the most niched landing page. Like you probably like for business, you don't have just one. You have like maybe you have several, and it's unique to the ideal customer persona that you're targeting, because there's no like generic sign up. There's usually like 7 different versions, and then they're tailored specifically based on like the demographic, whether it's age, location, intent, etc., and they convert higher versus this generic thing. So they're a good starting point, but it, like in any landing page, if we're using that as an example, you're going to have to refine, optimize over time, change a button here, change a tagline. Like that's going to evolve. It's a good starting point, but it's never going to be the finish line.
Before we continue, if you're feeling stuck in your design career, or if you feel like you're doing solid work while no one really notices, we've got a bunch of extra stuff on our website.
We're building a community for product designers to actually learn, grow, and get hired, not just scroll and collect more inspiration.
There's also articles, checklists, and courses.
All based on real-world experience from both of us. No fluff, just what actually works.
Check out designtablepodcast.com. The link is in the description. Yeah. Listening to you and talking about this, all I'm thinking is, man, our job is great.
It's surface level. Like if you're looking at all social media, it is more complicated than we make it out, than what's being published. Like we have so many challenging problems to tackle. It's never a dull day in the designer's week.
I mean, there's such a big gap between what a designer does, like you explain it on a birthday party, compared to what you actually do. Like when you are a designer, like in a strategic position, like thinking about mental models and target customers and ICPs and all that stuff. Like there's like, I almost feel like a scientist, a mad scientist, like bringing all these things together and getting the best results. I mean, that's super cool.
That's funny. That's the one reason I don't go to my kids in daycare. They have like bring your parent to work day so they can show off their job. I've never gone because I am not. I'm like, hey kids, here's a funnel. What am I going to do with? I can't. Nothing in what we do is tangible. Like the line explained it to me like I'm a 4-year-old. Like, how do you explain what we do to a 4-year-old? You can't. It's so unique and intricate that, like, to your point, I
always freeze and twitch when someone asks me like, oh, what do you do? Like I want to say like, well, do you have an hour? Because then I'm going to talk you through it. But I always stutter and then say something like, well, I design software, websites and that kind of thing. And they're like, okay, I've seen a website before, I'm like, yeah, that's why I use the website. But there's so much more to it. I think we should challenge ourselves to write the best what is product design article ever in the shortest way possible. Like, see if we can refine it endlessly. Because the reason we're talking about this topic today is because even junior designers don't really understand what design is. Because when someone tells me, I'm afraid that everything I'm designing has been designed before, it tells me that they look at the surface level. They don't really understand the layers underneath it, which, that's just an observation, because I'm not blaming them, because, they're entry level, they're junior, they're fresh out of school. They don't know. I didn't know when I got out of school. It took a while to figure that out, but maybe it shows a problem, in how they are, the things they learn in school, I think in school they learn tools mostly.
Yeah. But also I think it's part of it's pattern recognition. Like we probably, like when I started my career, Dribbble was the thing I looked at, like, ooh, look how impressive and talented all the designers are. Looking at it now, and I know like it's not a lot of people use it now. Like I'll go there for inspiration, but
there's no shame in that. I'm not going to storm out of this studio knowing that you visit Dribbble like every day, the whole day. I don't mind. It's fine.
All right. I'm shocked.
Well, in that case, yeah.
But like, if I'm looking at a Dribbble content now, I'm able to assess if it's just pretty or it works. Like I can see if I look at a dashboard and I have like KPI this, KPI like, okay, this is just someone who's exploring some UI direction, like different shadows, gradient, like typography, colors. So I know if I'm borrowing inspiration, I know not to copy the UX. I'm probably copying just like the UI treatment because I loved like how they manicured this one component.
Yeah.
But back in the day, like when I don't know, like this looks like someone's professional. I'm just going to copy because I'm going to copy the UI and the UX because it looks great. And then inevitably when you hand it over to the engineer and they spit in your face because like, what is this? This is not logical.
Yeah.
That's the loop that makes you better and have a better understanding of like what good UX is versus like just copying the UI.
Also, last episode we talked about, the if AI makes design more or less fun and then the mental health of people, just designing something and looking at it and making it work, like you say, copying the UI only or also the UX, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's way easier to validate that and see if you can actually do it, if it makes sense to also bring along the UX in your stealing or in your copying. It's just a random thought I had in my mind.
That's 100% true because that's what I do now. Like it used to be historically, it's been a design Figma thing, and then I'll create a prototype and I'll try to do as many of the edge cases that I think exist. But now since I'm building the prototype, I'm able to actually validate that what are the actual, like it's not my assumption of what the edge cases are, the actual edge cases that I need to fix or like the friction points. And now I have a better conversation with the engineering team because I've gone through this fast, so I have a better understanding. We're at the same level versus I think this is going to work. Yeah. Please let me know. And then there's that loop of like, no, did you think about this? No, I'll come back and design it. Did you think about this? No. Like we're both talking the same language.
Yeah. And because it's faster, you can, like, let's say 2 years ago, it took you a week to create a static thing. And only then after a week, you would get the feedback like, hey, this edge case, you didn't think of it yet. But now in that same first week, you could have thought of those edge cases like before you hand it over the first time because you were so much quicker. One thing I ran into with a client is, and I'm curious what you think about, this is still about I'm designing something that's already there. We started to work on improving an existing part of the dashboard, and we try to improve just the literal thing that we already had, like a top area with some info on the dashboard, and the top area had to be improved because it wasn't really good yet. But because we were so like tunnel visioned on improving that thing, we made, like that very old saying goes, we made a faster horse, but we didn't make a new thing. And that doesn't really work if the thing you started from is, kind of broken, not really useful. It was very challenging to take a step back and just start from scratch again. And then funny enough, and designers will not like this, but the developer had the breakthrough idea. They came up with the car instead of the faster horse. They're really the new thing. And then, it came back to me in the end because I had to do UI polish and think through, different things and do prototyping. So I didn't mind. I was very happy with the developer's breakthrough, but that's something new. And I'm sure you can find another example of it, like another dashboard where they have the same thing, but within the little world that we and the client lived in, it was new. It wasn't designed before. And mentally, that was a big moment. Like we were all very happy to have that breakthrough, so I think that's a very cool example of, designing something quote unquote new.
Yeah, because there's in that example there's bias there. So it's like the same example when you bring a mock-up to the engineering team. It's like, oh, here's what you want to do. It's like, oh, and their eyes, we're going to build this. Yeah. Versus like, let's come to the table, think about something new. We don't have a reference. Like pie is the sky. You get to explore different variations or different concepts without being anchored to this visual idea. So like the developer in your case, like, hey, I have this complete different separate idea. Yeah, if we like to explore that, I think that's great because like that's the name of the game. It's like removing the main character syndrome. Like anyone can bring their idea to the table. That's what collaboration is.
Yeah, that makes sense. We have to step over our own shadows and egos as designers. Like, more people can design. Yeah. So okay. I think we have a great answer there. And don't know about you, but I feel like extra motivated now about this realization of good moment to remember how cool the design job actually is. If you're allowed to execute the design role the way that it's meant to be, because I know there are a lot of designers who are just, they expect you to just, pixel push, just give us the mock-ups and don't think about it. Just want the mock-up. Yeah. It's less fun in that position, I think, unless you really enjoy the puzzling of the pixel pushing, which is fine too.
It's fine, but part of the pixel pushing is understanding the person that's going to be using the pixels that you push. That's a tongue twister. It's like that, like at the end of the day, like the concepts may be the same, but what's unique is the users and the business, which makes the design unique. So it may it may high level conceptually be the same, but there's a unique experience tied to it because, again, the business and the users are different. So it makes it, you're not technically designing the same thing unless you literally copy and paste one for one.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, that's question answered. I have to say it the right way around. Did you see anything cool this week? Any, design oops moments or something really cool where you're like, that's inspirational?
I'll tell you something that I discovered this week on the job that it's AI related, but it's
of course
it blew my mind. So we use Mixpanel for our analytics.
A/B testing and
yeah. So we launch features, we tag different UI elements so we can see what our users are doing. Mixpanel came out with an AI agent, which is just another word of saying a chat, which is at service level seems very whatever. But for the first time, my workflow is I have Claude connected to GitHub and I have Claude connect. And then I basically understand if I prompt Claude to say, I'm working on this redesign for this page, give me all the Mixpanel tags that have been implemented. And now I want to investigate how I can redesign this feature. So give me the prompt to ask Mixpanel agent, what are the high volume flows within this page? And then it's able to kind of spit out here are the high traffic flows. Now I have a better understanding of how to redesign a page, which is amazing to me. Historically it was speak to a business analyst, make them do the investigation. Because I'm connected to GitHub, I understand what's being tagged. And now I know the exact prompt to ask Mixpanel to give me the results that I need. And then I could design the right thing. Initially in that project, the assumption was there was one particular thing wrong with a page. Quickly validated that it wasn't. I was almost going to design the wrong thing. And I ended up designing the right thing. The scope was bigger. Now I reduced the scope because this is the actual problem to be fixed. The problem in the end was we had a save button, but the save button would push you to the next step. But the user intent was to save their progress because they didn't want it to be lost. But we were adding friction in the process. So instead of just hitting save, continue my work, we were saving, kicking them out. They had to go back in, edit, do my changes, save, and be kicked out again. Now the solution was basically just add a save my progress button. As simple as that versus a 3 or 4 sprint solution now was a half a day fix.
And that's all because you, instead of all the data and the talking were on 2 islands, now you were able to connect it all together and be way quicker and more in the know. I mean, that's really cool. So the clicking save assumed that you were done. Save next in one click. While people were probably on that page for a while and they were concerned, what if it freezes? What if it crashes? What if I have to leave? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to save in between.
Exactly.
And then they were halfway through the form or filling in something. They clicked save and then they moved to the next page while still, in progress.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they had to go back and, Yeah. So then, save my progress. That's basically the button but without going to the next step. And then there was probably something next to it, literally a next button or a continue button.
Yeah, it was save progress was the new button. And then next to it was now updated the copy, save and continue. So it was a step in the process. There's a funnel there, but they want to just save the work and keep iterating on the step. until they're
Nice.
ready to move to the next step.
Nice. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And you figure that out by, seeing the data flow, like people would do like step 1, step 2, step 1 again, instead of step 3, like, hey, there's something there.
Yeah, exactly. That like they're looking at the analytics. There were more edit events than create events, obviously, but like the disparity between it was a lot. And then, but the time between the create and the edit were too close together. It was like less, like 30 seconds. Okay. So like, it's clear that they hit save, like, oh no, I need to go back. So that it wasn't that people love to edit the screen. It's just that they weren't done.
It's not like the user was like, oh man, I love this whole fintech stuff so much. Let's click reset and do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, but this really, I think this is a great example of how the talking between systems is really helpful, and how, a quick fix can really make a big impact. Maybe bigger so than, like you say, doing 3 sprints of analyzing and figuring things out. Well, all you had to do was change a label and a bit of behavior. So it's really cool.
Yeah, a good plus for AI this week.
Yeah, nice. All right. Well, that's like I said, this is a very motivating episode. I am going to think about it some more and talk about it some more and see if I can write that ultimate product design definition article. Because I think we have the transcript, we have the episode.
Just don't make AI write it. Make sure you.
No, of course not. Oh, of course not. Yeah, I have more to say on that, but that's maybe for outside of recordings or in new episodes. So otherwise, we will just be here for another hour.
Until next time. All right, that's another episode in the bag.
Yeah, great episode. By the way, if you're stuck second guessing your work or trying to figure out your next move, drop a question in the comments or leave a review. We might actually feature you in one of our future episodes.
And if you got any value from this episode, hit subscribe wherever you're listening. It helps more than you think.
You can find everything else, resources, articles, and more at designtablepodcast.com.
Thanks for being here.
See you next time.